welcome to MWC Short. Unfortunately, we are not in Barcelona this year, but with the help of technology and GSMA, we managed to get a fantastic speaker who is based in the US on the line with us today. Oh, by the way, my name is Li Wei. I'm an engagement manager at LEK. Philip, over to you.
Thank you, Leroy. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, I'm CEO of Exfo, a company that's focused on testing, monitoring, and analytics for the service providers. Has been our main customer base. So we've been helping customers build network, but ultimately, as they put the network up and running with services, providing them tools to troubleshoot, to analyze, to provide a better visibility of what's happening in the network.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Because I think that our topic today is about, the commercial enterprise network and applications. So you experience is spot on this topic. Could you tell us a little bit about, what's required in order to make a successful enterprise network deployment?
Yeah, that's a really critical question, especially as we move to our future of our industry with 5G coming around. When we talk about a successful commercial enterprise deployment going forward, it's not about just voice and internet data. It's going to be how we can actually bring together new applications that will require a powerful network, how we're going to bring more machines to the network, and how we actually ultimately have more subscribers connected to the network. And we do believe that, as an industry, we need to work on what we believe is pretty critical solution and aspects to this, and really what we're bringing up as an industry is the fact that today's network, the subscribers, which tends to be the majority of the people attending, are using the network. We do suffer silently, and what we mean by that is, if you lose your connection, you tolerate that. But as we move to 5G, as we move to next generation applications where machine to machine will be critical, our machines won't tolerate the same way as subscribers do today. Yeah. And it came up to the fact that as we started doing research with our customers and we started leveraging as well GSMA and other functions, it came about the fact that a pretty astounding number that we believe that we're 98.7% blind in terms of the visibility of what we're seeing in the network. And it's pretty surprising. We were actually questioning, did we do anything wrong with the math here? There's got to be something wrong. It can't be that such power is like, with all our best intention, that we would be that blind running the networks. And so we were asking ourselves, what really is happening here? And so let me explain to you how we came up with our research by talking to our customers, how we came up with that number. And it starts with the fact that as we started to understand better today's architecture for service assurance, where you provide a lot of information going into a data lake, you're starting to hit the limit of computing and humans in terms of being able to decipher what's truly happening. So take a look at today on a customer's network when there's about 100 trouble tickets generated. Now, it tends to vary depending on the size of the network, obviously, but a network operating center, if you take 100 trouble tickets being generated, 62% of these trouble tickets will come from our information coming from the network. Routers providing this, transport network element providing information that really helps the network operator at the service operations center to really troubleshoot and figure out what's happening in the network. The remaining 38 comes from humans. So humans are calling in, stating issues, degradation, congestions on the network. And of the 38 of these humans are really providing an impact. But if we actually double click on those 38 and ask ourselves what really is happening, what we're finding out is through GSMA and through other research, humans only report about 0.5% of their trouble. And if you're like me, you're right. If you get a connection, you lose your connection, you don't usually report it back. You just dial again.
Yeah, that's right.
And so now you've got 0.5% only of the 38 tickets actually generate. And so what this means is there's about close to 8,000 unreported issues in the network that effectively the network operators are not aware of we as an industry are not really familiar. So again, this tolerance, the fact that we human accept this won't work as we move into 5G. And what we're also seeing here is that we do believe it's going to even get more complicated as we move forward as an industry. NFV, as you know, started being deployed in 2016. What we've now seen since in 2019 is a 46% increase in reported outages.
Wow.
Due to 65% of these outages are due to NFV. So for all the right reasons, our operators, our customers are deploying virtualized functions to save OpEx, to try to improve of the overall operation of the network. But that complexity is adding a more operational issue, more outages. Fast forward in 2025 with machine to machine, and now you increase substantially the amount of devices. And by the way, you move more and more of that network into the telco cloud. The amount of complexity that we are seeing, where we have to effectively, as an industry, change the way we provide the visibility and the assurance going forward. And again, I'll give you examples of the 5G era machines. These applications are going to depend and will leverage the power of the network and the high performance, the low latency, but it will be driven, the incremental revenue, the incremental applications will be driven by machines connecting to other machines and making sure that they won't be tolerating degradation or any issues that we're seeing in today's network, in 4G networks, and especially as we move forward with 5G solutions. So as an industry, we do believe that we need to really focus on how do we provide 100% visibility, and to help our service providers in order for us to have a successful and a fast successful 5G journey is to provide better visibility. And the answer to that is leveraging what's available, and great technologies are available today. Latest data science, leveraging machine learning and AI, adaptive assurance. What this means is we should not be going with the same architecture of putting lots of probes in the network and getting all the data into a big data lake. Leveraging automation. So once you start seeing through machine learning algorithms issues, being able to automate the troubleshooting so that you can provide better visibility into the application. And then ultimately, this is where the industry needs to step in together, is open data. The 5G protocol will help in making sure that the more data becomes available in the network, the more telemetry becomes available from the network, either coming in from the network elements and so on, the better we will be as an industry, as we will be able to provide better visibility to our customers in terms of what's happening in the network. So that's, to answer your question, where we feel is required in order to have a very successful commercial deployment is to provide better visibility with the right data and the right context and with open data coming from a combination of the network, but leveraging as well the new technologies that's available, automation, machine learning algorithms, and then ultimately all doing that in real time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Philip. That's a very helpful overview. And speaking of the new technology, one of the key themes at MWC for the last couple of years, and on this year as well, is about 5G. But one thing people tend to forget is actually, in addition to 5G, the majority of the connections are actually still on the 4G network. So what are some of the key learning points from the network perspective or network deployment perspective about let's say whether it's LTE plus or whether it's 5G? What are some of the learnings you could share with our audience today?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think from what we've talked about, the lack of visibility and making sure we can leverage technology to get better visibility is actually applicable to 4G and LTE today. One of the learning, and I know it's now different, but one of the learning, when we started doing 4G deployment, the whole aspect of the operationalization of the networks and the service assurance behind it, how do we assure the network, was into a phase 2 of the network deployment. People were very focused on the new radios and how do we upgrade the core of the network and the RAN. The good news about 5G is that the operationalization of the network, of the services, is at the forefront, and we're seeing it with different protocols. So there has been already learnings that we need to make this part of the initial deployment, whether it's through the 5G NSA or 5G SAs are being deployed. The operationalization becomes a key part of the deployment. It's no longer a phase 2 or a phase 3 that you need to take care of after you've deployed your network.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. And actually, if you think about things from from other perspective, what are some of the challenges you think these network deployment are facing these days? Whether it's about ASA or SA for 5G.
I think it's what's exciting is the fact that when you start looking at 5G, is a whole slew of new technologies that combine together, right? So you got the advantage now of, as I mentioned, new technology like machine learning or AI. You've got big data, capability. You've got IoT that's coming to play. So for me, 5G connects it all together. And so what's really exciting for me as an industry is the fact that it's the combination of all these technologies that ultimately will really help. We talk a lot about digital transformation and the opportunity for enterprise to really start having incremental value, very valuable customer experience because of the technology. And that's what to me is so exciting about where we are in our industry is all these great technologies coming into fray. And then on top of that, you've got 5G that connects it all together, enabling enterprise to really look at new applications to improve customer experience.
Yeah. And then speaking of, so what are the, let's say, early stage or emerging enterprise applications you are saying that is, likely to become more mainstream or become more developed for the next couple of years?
I think it'll be interesting to see how things are going to get deployed in terms of the first use cases and so on. Obviously, we got fixed mobile broadband as a good example. But if you start looking at more enterprise, I'm a firm believer that I think there's a lot more we can do from a health point of view. And obviously, with the coronavirus is a good example of how we can leverage technology to ultimately do a better support of things like what we're going through right now. I'll give you in healthcare another example. I do think that one of the first use case for 5G and IoT and then deployment will be ultimately what's happening. And if you have an accident and you happen to be going into an ambulance, every single minute at the beginning becomes so critical.
Yeah.
Ambulance connected to a 5G network where you can have a doctor going in with high definition video, being able to provide right away support, right away with the first few seconds. For me, are going to be use cases like that ultimately will be able to leverage the power of a very strong network, high performance network to service better, casualties where every second counts.
Okay, yeah, I think that's definitely what I think while the industry is moving towards, and you mentioned this, let's say human beings are more tolerant, and machines is actually a lot less so. Especially think about all these IoT devices, or we talked about let's say the cost of failure can be very high, especially when lots of the, let's say, services or mission critical services are relying on it. As an industry, what are the things you think we could do together in order to have let's say to really enable the let's say a high performing and more reliable network?
I do think that is, to my last point in my chart, I think is as an industry, we do have to make sure that we work more together in terms of there's a tremendous amount of data that's available in the network that's spread all over into network elements to, from the fiber all the way up to the subscriber. Being able to have that data accessible for the different kind of applications tools so that we provide better visibility, because you're absolutely right. When it comes down to mission critical activities, getting better visibility with the right data at the right time will make a difference between, you know, an application running smoothly or not. And as we said, machines will need that high performance, high visibility in order to be successful. So as an industry, for us to make sure that the 5G gets a successful deployment and a fast pace, having that data available from the network, I think will make a big difference.
Yeah, and then actually, speaking of the data, I think, you know, lots of the audience that might be thinking, okay, you know, if different parts of the, let's say, the value chain or the network are beginning to share the data or have that open data, how can we ensure, let's say, the security or the privacy of the data? And, you know, what's your thought on that?
Security of the data is actually going to be is no longer, it's table stakes now. It's no longer something you got to think about later. I mean, it's we've seen that. So whether it's consumer data that potentially you can see from the subscriber data all the way to the network data, we need to make sure that that's done in a way that it's, you know, very securely treated, anonymized, and so on. And I do think that's part of when we say open data. It's got to be in the context of making sure that it's also secure data.
Yeah. Okay, so it's open data, but it's secure data as well. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you know, it's really a shame we're not in MWC Barcelona this year. But let's say, you know, if you were there, or if you could go there, or if you go there next year, which I'm sure, you know, you will. What kind of things you would like to see at MWC Barcelona?
Yeah, I think we're coming into a very exciting time, and yeah, as you said, it would have been great. I think that this edition would have been Mobile World Congress 2020 would have been an edition where we've passed what I would call the lab phase, the early deployment phase. We're now moving into a wider deployment of 5G networks, and we've seen it in different countries and so on. And therefore, now what are the use cases and what are the applications that can really leverage the power of that network? And that's what I'm looking forward to see is. There's going to be tremendous new applications and new ideas that's going to come, and I do think that that's going to be the real that's when the real innovation comes. It's leveraging the network, leveraging these new technologies I talked about, like AI, big data, IoT, and then seeing what applications we can really truly bring to the market. Yeah,
well, I think if I remember correctly, I think GSMA organized this MWC Shanghai and MWC, I think, American later the year. So hopefully, you know, we can go there and see some of the, you know,
see some examples.
On that. Do you have any, you know, closing comments for our audience?
I think the closing comment for the audience for me comes back to, again, I think we're moving into a very new, exciting era. I mean, I look at 5G as a revolution. Because of the fact that it brings all sorts of great technologies together, and in order to leverage all this great opportunities coming from all these technologies, we need to make sure that we can operationalize these services the right way, with the right data, the right visibility at the right time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing your perspective today, Philip. That's very, very helpful. And hopefully I will see you in MWC 2021.
For sure. Looking forward to seeing you.